My name is Ethan Cole, I'm 38 years old, and I work long shifts in warehouse logistics. It's hard physical labor, lifting, moving, sweating day in and day out. The pay isn't great, but it's honest work. I've always believed that as long as I could provide and be there for my family, I was doing my job as a man. 15 years ago, I met Vanessa at Tommy's barbecue. One of those perfect summer evenings where the beer was cold and the possibilities seemed endless. She worked reception at Morrison & Associates, always dressed sharp even on weekends with this laugh that made everyone turn their heads. I was just a night shift forklift operator back then, covered in warehouse dust and self-doubt. "You're different," she'd said that first night, touching my calloused hand. "Real, not like these corporate phonies I deal with all day." We fell hard and fast. She'd show up at the warehouse at 2 a.m. with coffee and sandwiches, sitting on the loading dock while I operated the forklift, making me feel like the most important man in the world. I'd leave handwritten notes in her lunch bag. Stupid things, like, "You make Monday mornings worth it," or "Your smile is my favorite part of today." We were that couple everyone rolled their eyes at but secretly envied. 2 years later, we married in her parents' backyard. Nothing fancy, and we couldn't afford it. But when she looked at me in that simple white dress she'd found at a consignment shop, tears streaming down her face as she said, "I do." I knew I'd work myself to the bone to give her everything. That was then. Now, 15 years later, she makes 3 times what I do as VP of marketing at her firm. The woman who once called, "My work ethic sexy," now calls my job embarrassing. "Another dinner with the partners tonight," she'd announced last week, not even looking up from her phone. "Don't wait up." "It's our anniversary, Vanessa." "I made reservations at Giuseppe's," I reminded her. She'd finally looked at me then, irritation flickering across her face. "Oh, right. Can we reschedule?" she asked dismissively. "This client meeting is crucial." I sat alone at Giuseppe's that night, watching the candle burn down to nothing while other couples laughed and touched hands across their tables. The waiter kept refilling my water, avoiding eye contact. When I finally left, I saw my reflection. In the window, a tired man in his best shirt, holding a bouquet of wilting roses. She came home at 2 a.m., shoes in hand, humming. Actually humming. "How was the meeting?" I asked from the darkness of our bedroom. "Productive," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Not tired, not apologetic. Happy. Over the next weeks, the changes became impossible to ignore. New lingerie appeared in her drawer. La Perla, the tags said. $300 for underwear I'd never seen her wear. A bottle of Tom Ford perfume materialized on her dresser, the kind that cost more than I made in a day. Her phone became a constant companion, always face down, always on silent. When it buzzed, she'd glance at it and smile. That private, secret smile that used to be mine. "Who keeps texting so late?" I asked one night. "Work stuff," she replied, curtly typing, rapidly. "You wouldn't understand." The dismissal stung more than the lie. Last night, I couldn't sleep. Vanessa lay beside me, breathing evenly, her phone charging on the nightstand. It lit up. 2 messages in quick succession. I didn't mean to look, but the preview showed before. The screen darkened. "Can't wait to see you again. Chicago will be perfect." My chest tightened. Chicago. She'd mentioned a business conference next week. An industry summit she'd been selected for. She'd been so excited, practically glowing when she told me. Now, lying in the dark with my wife inches away but miles distant, I stared at the ceiling and wondered when exactly I'd become invisible to the woman who once said I was her whole world. The warehouse still smelled the same. My hands were still calloused. I was still the same man. But Vanessa, she'd become someone I didn't recognize. Someone who packed new lingerie for business trips and smiled at her phone like it held all her secrets. Because it did. Vanessa left for Chicago on a Wednesday morning, kissing my cheek with all the warmth of a stranger bumping into you on the subway. "The conference runs through Saturday," she said, adjusting her lipstick in the hallway mirror. "I'll try to call, but you know how these things are. Networking dinners, late sessions." "Sure," I said, watching her zip her suitcase. The LA Perla tags were gone, but I'd seen her pack them. Have a good trip. After her Uber disappeared around the corner, I sat in my truck for 20 minutes before driving to the warehouse. My supervisor, Ray, took one look at me and pulled me aside. "You okay, Cole?" "Looking rough," he observed. "Need a few days," I said. "Personal matters." Ray didn't question it. 15 years of perfect attendance bought you some leeway. By noon, I was sitting across from Sean Porter in a diner off Route 9 just outside Newark. The private investigator came recommended by my buddy Jake, whose brother had used him during his divorce. Sean was younger than I expected, maybe early 40s, with the kind of quiet intensity that made you believe he'd been a cop. 20 years on the force, he confirmed, sliding his credentials across the table. Mostly homicide, but the cheating spouse business pays better and nobody shoots at me anymore. I showed him everything. Vanessa's Chicago conference that I'd researched online and couldn't find any trace of. The new clothes and perfume. The photo of Vanessa from our wedding album. "You sure you want to know?" Sean asked, studying me. "Sometimes ignorance really is—" "I'm sure," I interrupted firmly. He named his rate. "It would clean out my emergency fund, but what was I saving for anyway? The future I'd planned with Vanessa was already dead. I just needed proof of the funeral." Sean flew to Chicago that afternoon. By evening, he called. "Your wife's not at any conference hotel. She's at the Marriott downtown, checked in under her own name. She's not alone," he reported. My hand tightened on the phone. "Who?" "Tall guy, silver hair, expensive suit. Got clear photos of them at dinner. Intimate, very intimate," he explained. "Send them," I demanded. The email came through encrypted, just like Sean promised. 17 photos that shattered whatever denial I'd been clinging to. Vanessa laughing, her hand on his chest. The two of them entering the hotel together. A kiss in the elevator that the security camera caught perfectly. But the last photo stopped my heart. A clear shot of the man's face as he paid the valet. I knew him. Richard, Blackwood, her boss, the VP of business development who she'd always described as brilliant, but so committed to his family. I threw up in the kitchen sink, then sat on the floor until the shaking stopped. When Vanessa called that night, I almost didn't answer. "Hey, baby," she said cheerfully, and I could hear music in the background. "Conference is going great. Learned so much today about integrated marketing strategies. That's good," I managed to say. "Where are you now?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, just the hotel bar with some other attendees. Networking, you know," she lied smoothly. "Actually, I should go. We're about to grab dinner. Love you." She hung up before I could respond. "Love you." The words meant nothing now. Sean continued surveillance for 3 more days. His reports came in like a medical diagnosis. Clinical, thorough, devastating. Richard and Vanessa at breakfast, sharing a newspaper, shopping together at Nordstrom. Walking through Millennium Park holding hands like teenagers. "I've done some digging," Sean said during a follow-up call. Cross-referenced both their travel records. This is their 4th trip together. They've been meeting in Chicago every 3 weeks for the past 3 months. 4 trips. 3 months of lying to my face. Saturday afternoon, Vanessa texted that she'd landed at Newark and would be home soon. I deleted Sean's emails, cleared my browser history, and went through the motions of normalcy. When she walked through the door, I was watching TV like any other evening. "Miss me?" she asked, dropping her bags. "Always," I lied in return. She showered while I unpacked her suitcase, finding the conference badge she'd somehow acquired. Probably printed at a FedEx office. Such elaborate deception. Such careful planning. That night, she told me stories about presentations that never happened, colleagues she never met, dinners she hadn't attended. The ease of her lies was almost artistic. If I hadn't seen the photos, I would have believed every word. Richard was there too, she mentioned casually. His wife must hate how much he travels. I studied her face. Nothing. No tell, no guilt, no hesitation. Yeah, I agreed. She must. After she fell asleep, I sat in the garage with Sean's final report. Richard Blackwood, married 18 years to Claire. 2 daughters, Emma and Sophie. House in Westchester. The LinkedIn family photo showed a beautiful woman with kind eyes and 2 teenage girls with their father's smile. My phone screen glowed in the darkness as I stared at Claire Blackwood's profile. Pediatric nurse at Mount Sinai. Mother. Wife of a cheating bastard who was f***ing my wife. She deserved to know. We both did. I rewrote the LinkedIn message 9 times before sending it. Mrs. Blackwood, I believe we need to talk about our spouses' recent business trips together. I have evidence you should see. Ethan Cole 3. Hours later, she responded, tomorrow, 2 p.m., Gramercy Coffee on 42nd. I'll be wearing a blue scarf. I called in sick again and drove into Manhattan, arriving 30 minutes early. The coffee shop was one of those quiet places professionals used for difficult conversations. Muted colors, soft jazz, tables spaced for privacy. Claire Blackwood walked in exactly at 2 p.m., and I understood immediately why Richard was an idiot. She moved with the quiet confidence of someone who'd seen enough of life's harsh realities to stop being surprised by them. The blue scarf was silk, probably a gift from the husband she still trusted. Mr. Cole, she said, sitting across from me. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly as she removed her gloves. I have 30 minutes before I need to be back at the hospital. I pushed the manila envelope across the table. I'm sorry. She opened it slowly, like a radiologist reviewing fatal scans. Each photo seemed to age her a year. When she reached the one of Richard and Vanessa kissing, she closed her eyes and breathed deeply through her nose. How long? She asked quietly. 3 months. 4 trips to Chicago that we can prove, I answered. Chicago? It wasn't a question. He said they were crucial for the Singapore expansion. There is no Singapore expansion, I told her. Claire laughed. A sharp, bitter sound. Of course there isn't. God, I'm an idiot, she said, shaking her head. Emma's soccer championship 3 weeks ago. He missed it for Chicago. For her. She gestured at Vanessa's photo. She cried in the car afterward, asked if Daddy loved his job more than her. You're not an idiot. We trusted them, I reassured her. She studied me then, really looked at me for the first time. You're the warehouse worker Vanessa complains about. The words stung, but I kept my face neutral. She complains? Richard mentioned it. Said Vanessa felt held back by her husband's lack of ambition, Claire explained, then her expression softened. For what it's worth, he made you sound like a good man, just not good enough for her tastes. Apparently not, I replied dryly. We sat in silence while Claire flipped through the photos again, her analytical mind processing the evidence. I've been covering extra shifts to pay for Emma and Sophie's college tuition while he burns through our savings on hotels, she said quietly. I pulled our credit card statements this morning. $17,000 in the last 3 months. Hotels, restaurants, gifts. Jesus, I breathed. The Marriott alone is $400 a night. 4 trips, 3 nights each. She did the math quickly. That's just the hotel, not counting flights, meals, shopping. They weren't just cheating, they were stealing from their families to fund it. What do you want to do? I asked. Claire's eyes hardened. I want to destroy them. Professionally? Personally, completely, but I need to protect my girls first. Sean, my investigator, he can document everything. Build a case that ensures you get everything in the divorce, I suggested. It's not about money, Mr. Cole. It's about justice. She pulled out her phone, showing me Richard's calendar. He has another Chicago trip in 2 weeks, 3 days, supposedly for the Singapore expansion. Vanessa mentioned a follow-up conference, I confirmed. We looked at each other, understanding passing between us like a secret handshake. We could confront them there, Claire said thoughtfully. Together, with witnesses, evidence, everything, documented. That's exactly what I was thinking, I agreed. Over the next hour, Claire revealed details that completed the picture. Richard had been distant for months, claiming work stress. He'd joined a gym, bought new suits, started using cologne she'd never smelled before. Classic midlife crisis markers she'd ignored because she trusted him. 20 years of marriage, she said. I gave up my career advancement to raise our daughters while he climbed the corporate ladder. Moved 3 times for his job. Hosted every company dinner, smiled at every insufferable golf tournament. You didn't deserve this, I said sincerely. Neither did you. She gathered the photos, sliding them back into the envelope. May I keep these for my lawyer? They're yours. Sean can make more copies, I assured her. We exchanged phone numbers, creating a shared document to track evidence. Claire had access to Richard's emails through their shared family computer. I had Sean's surveillance. Together, we had enough to bury them. Over the following 2 weeks, we met 3 more times. Claire discovered hotel reservations Richard had hidden in a separate email account. I found credit card statements showing jewelry purchases, a $3,000 necklace that appeared around Vanessa's neck the day after her last conference. They think we're stupid, Claire said during our final planning meeting. That's what pisses me off most, the contempt. She was right. Every lie was an insult to our intelligence, every deception a statement that we weren't worth honesty. We both consulted divorce lawyers quietly. Mine explained that while New Jersey was a no-fault state, adultery could still affect property division and alimony, especially with evidence of financial misconduct. Claire's lawyer in New York said the same thing. Don't serve papers until you're ready, my lawyer advised. Once you pull that trigger, there's no going back. I'll be ready in Chicago, I promised. The night before they left for their 5th trip, I watched Vanessa pack with the detachment of a documentary filmmaker. She hummed while folding clothes, checked her phone constantly, even did her nails, something she hadn't done for me in years. You seem excited about this conference, I observed. It's a big opportunity, she replied, not looking up. Richard thinks I could be promoted to senior VP if I play this right. Richard thinks. Not her actual boss, Sandra, who ran the marketing division. Richard, who had no say in marketing promotions, but apparently had plenty to say about everything else in Vanessa's life. Good luck, I said, meaning it. She'd need it. That night, I texted Claire, Chicago, 2 weeks from today. Are you ready to end this? Her response was immediate. I've been ready since the day you showed me those photos. Thursday morning came gray and drizzling, fitting weather for a funeral. Vanessa stood at the door with her suitcase, checking her phone one last time. I'll miss you, baby, she said, the lie sliding out as easily as breathing. Her kiss landed on my cheek like a raindrop, brief, cold, meaningless. Have a safe trip, I said, watching her climb into the Uber. She waved without looking back, already texting someone. Richard, probably, confirming their plans. After she left, I made my own preparations. Sean had booked me on an afternoon flight from Newark, different airline to avoid any chance encounter. Claire was flying in from LaGuardia. We'd meet at the hotel bar at 8 p.m. to finalize everything. The warehouse guys still thought I had the flu. Ray had called again. Take all the time you need, Cole. 15 years, you've earned it. If only he knew what I'd really earned. The flight to Chicago felt like traveling to another dimension. Below me, America stretched out in neat squares of farmland and subdivision, everyone living their ordinary lives, trusting their spouses, believing in their marriages. I envied them. Sean met me at O'Hare, handing me a key card. Room 1247, adjoining 1249. They're in 1245. You got us rooms. On the same floor? I asked. My cousin manages night security. He's seen enough of this to know what's coming. Sean paused. You sure you want to go through with this? Once you knock on that door, there's no going back. There's already no going back, I replied, firmly. The Marriott lobby was all marble and soft lighting, the kind of place where affairs felt sophisticated instead of sordid. I saw Claire before she saw me, sitting at the bar, nursing a glass of wine, wearing the kind of outfit you'd wear to a funeral. Black dress, pearl earrings, wedding ring still on her finger. Ethan, she said when I sat beside her. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were red-rimmed. I talked to the girls yesterday. Told them I was visiting my sister in Boston. Another lie to add to the pile. You don't have to be here. I can handle this alone, I offered. No. She turned her wedding ring, a nervous habit. I need to see his face. I need him to know, that his daughters will know. We went over the plan one more time. Sean would be positioned in the hallway with a camera. The divorce papers were in our pockets, both sets prepared by our respective lawyers. Everything was recorded, documented, backed up in multiple locations. They checked in at 3 p.m. as Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, Sean reported via text. Had champagne, sent up an hour ago. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. They were playing house while their actual houses burned down around them. At 11 p.m., Claire and I stood outside room 1245. We could hear music, jazz, the kind Vanessa used to say was pretentious. We could hear laughter, the clink of glasses, the sound of my wife being happy with another man. Claire raised her hand to knock, then stopped. I loved him, she whispered. Despite everything, I still love who he used to be. I know, I said, because I did. The Vanessa in that room wasn't the girl who'd brought me coffee at 2 a.m. That girl was dead, had been for longer than I'd wanted to admit. Claire knocked. 3 sharp raps, all business, room service, she called out, her voice artificially bright. Footsteps approached. The door opened, and there was Richard Blackwood in a hotel bathrobe that probably cost more than I made in a day. His face went through a symphony of emotions. Confusion, recognition, terror. In the span of 2 seconds. Claire, what are you? He started to ask. I pushed past him before he could finish. The room was exactly what I'd expected. Dim lighting, empty champagne bottle, clothes scattered on the floor like breadcrumbs leading to disaster. Vanessa was on the bed in black lingerie I'd never seen, her hair tousled, lips swollen from kissing. When she saw me, every muscle in her body locked. Ethan, what are you doing here? How did you... She began frantically. She stopped when Claire entered behind me, understanding crashing over her face like a bucket of ice water. Hello, Vanessa, Claire said with deadly calm. Nice lingerie. Did my husband buy that with our daughter's college fund? Richard tried to regain control, his executive training kicking in. Now let's all calm down and discuss this rationally. The sound of Claire's palm connecting with his face was like a gunshot in the quiet room. Richard staggered back, hand to his cheek, $60,000 MBA worthless in the face of his wife's rage. Rationally? Claire's voice could have frozen helium. Like how you rationally spent $17,000 of our money on this affair while I worked double shifts to cover Emma's therapy? She has anxiety, Richard. Started when her father began missing everything important in her life. Vanessa grabbed a robe, trying to cover herself, trying to find dignity in indignity. Ethan, please. Let's talk about this privately. Privately? I laughed, surprising myself with how steady I sounded. Like all those private conferences? Those private late-night meetings? Those private texts you've been sending while lying next to me? I pulled out the divorce papers, throwing them on the bed beside her. Sign them. The adultery documentation affects asset division. My lawyer says you'll be lucky to keep your car. You hired a lawyer? Vanessa's voice cracked. You hired a lawyer? And a private investigator, I confirmed. I nodded toward the door where Sean was filming everything. We have 3 months of surveillance. Every trip, every dinner, every lie documented. Richard lunged for the camera, but Sean stepped back smoothly. I wouldn't, Mr. Blackwood. Assault charges won't help your situation. Claire pulled out her phone, showing Richard the screen. I've already sent everything to Sandra Morrison. You remember Sandra? Your boss? The one whose husband you golf with? She's very interested in your expense reports for these fake Singapore trips. Richard's face went white. You contacted my boss? And the board of directors? And your partners? At the firm, Claire continued methodically. Oh, and I've already consulted with Jim Garrison. You remember the lawyer you tried to poach from Withers and Associates last year? He was happy to take my case. Says the financial misconduct alone will destroy you in court. Vanessa turned. To me, tears finally coming. "Ethan, please. This was a mistake. I love you. We can work through this." "You love me?" I asked, the words tasting like ashes. "You spent months telling me I wasn't good enough while you were being intimate with your married boss. You made me feel worthless for working an honest job while you were stealing from our future to pay for hotel rooms." "It wasn't like that," she protested weakly. "Then what was it like, Vanessa? Explain to me how it wasn't exactly what it looks like," I demanded. She had no answer. How could she? The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, spread across the bed like a map of their destruction. Richard tried one last executive maneuver. "This doesn't have to be so public. We can all come to an arrangement." "The arrangement?" Claire interjected coldly, "is that you'll be living in your car by Monday. The girls are staying with my sister this week. They'll know everything when I get home. I won't lie to them anymore. Not for you." That broke him. Richard collapsed into a chair, head in his hands, finally understanding that his carefully constructed life was over. 30 days, I told Vanessa firmly. "You have 30 days to get your things out of the house. The locks change tomorrow." "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked desperately. "That's not my problem anymore," I replied. Claire and I left together, walking past Sean, who was still recording. In the elevator, Claire started shaking. I put my arm around her shoulders and she leaned into me, 2 people holding each, other up, while their worlds collapsed. "We did it," she said. "We did," I confirmed. In the lobby, we stopped at the bar. Claire ordered whiskey. I ordered beer. We toasted to endings, to new beginnings, to the death of trust and the birth of whatever came next. "What now?" Claire asked. "Now we live," I said. "Without them, despite them, better than them." She smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her. "I've already applied for the nursing director position. Been putting it off for years because Richard said his career was more important. Ray wants me to take the supervisor training certification. Vanessa always said management in a warehouse was like being captain of a sinking ship," I shared. "You're going to do it?" she asked. "Already submitted the application," I confirmed. We finished our drinks in comfortable silence, 2 strangers bonded by shared devastation. When we parted ways, Claire hugged me. "Thank you," she said, "for telling me, for being here, for everything." "Saved each other," I replied. As my cab pulled away from the hotel, I looked back one last time. Somewhere up there, Richard and Vanessa were facing the wreckage of their choices. Tomorrow, the real consequences would begin. Lost jobs, divorce, proceedings, social humiliation. But tonight I was free. The man Vanessa thought was worthless had orchestrated her complete destruction with the patience and precision she'd mocked in my warehouse work. Sometimes the best revenge really is success. And sometimes success looks like walking away from a burning building you had the strength to set on fire. 2 months later. The warehouse morning shift starts at 6 a.m., but I arrive at 5:30 now. The supervisor's office has a coffee maker and a window facing east. I watch the sunrise while reviewing schedules, a simple pleasure I never thought I'd appreciate. "Morning, boss," Ray says, sticking his head in. "Still weird calling you that?" "Still weird hearing it," I admit. "The promotion came through 3 weeks ago. 20% raise, better benefits, and most importantly, respect from men who'd worked beside me for 15 years. Vanessa would have hated that I took it, would have called it settling for mediocrity. Vanessa, who now works as a temp at a marketing agency in Queens, making 1/3 of her previous salary. The divorce was finalized last week. New Jersey's equitable distribution laws, combined with the documented adultery and her draining of our joint savings for the affair, left her with very little. The house was mine. I'd made most of the payments anyway. The joint account she'd secretly withdrawn from had to be repaid. Even her car, leased under both names, went to me. She'd texted me once, "I hope you're happy." I didn't respond. My happiness wasn't her concern anymore. Richard Blackwood's fall was more spectacular. Claire had been thorough, forensic accountant. Thorough. The expense report fraud alone got him fired. But when Sandra Morrison learned about the fake Singapore project he'd been using to hide the affair, she made sure every firm in New York knew why he was terminated. Add in Claire's brutal divorce. She got the house, primary custody, and most of the assets, and Richard was finished. Last Sean heard, he was living with his brother in New Jersey working at a car dealership. Karma, Sean had said when he gave me the final report. Though I prefer to think of it as consequences. Claire and I meet for coffee once a month. Not romantic. We both know our connection was forged in crisis, not meant for normal life. But there's comfort in talking. To someone who understands. Emma made varsity soccer, she told me last week. Sophie got into Columbia early admission. That's amazing, I responded. They're doing better. We all are, she reflected, stirring her coffee, still wearing her wedding ring on her right hand. Now. The nursing director position starts next month. $40,000 more than I was making. You deserve it, I said sincerely. We both deserved better than we got, she replied. But maybe we needed to go through hell to appreciate heaven. At lunch, I sit in the warehouse break room with my crew. They still tell the same jokes, complain about the same things, but now, they look to me for solutions. I'm good at it. The logistics, the planning, the patience to see complex problems through to resolution. Skills that Vanessa never valued, but that saved me in the end. My phone buzzes, a text from my sister. Dinner. Sunday, Julie's making her famous lasagna. I'll be there. I type back. Life has gotten smaller but somehow fuller. Sunday dinners with family. Poker nights with the guys. Morning runs through the neighborhood where I wave to people who know my name, not my drama. The simplicity Vanessa called boring now feels like peace. Sometimes I drive past our old favorite restaurant, the Italian place where we'd celebrated promotions, birthdays, anniversaries before they became burdens. It's closed now, replaced by a trendy fusion place neither of us would have liked. Fitting, somehow. The investigator's final bill sits in my desk drawer, stamped, paid in full. $3,700 to destroy 2 lives and save 2 others. Money well spent, though I'll never need his services again. Trust, once broken, that completely doesn't grow back. It's replaced by something else, not cynicism exactly, but a clear-eyed understanding of what people are capable of. Cole, someone calls from the loading dock. Truck's here. I head out to supervise the unloading, clipboard in hand, doing the work Vanessa thought was beneath ambition. But there's honor in honest work, dignity in showing up every day and doing what needs to be done. The packages move from truck to warehouse to their destinations, every step tracked, every process followed. Order from chaos, truth from lies. My phone rings. Unknown number. Ethan? The voice is familiar but wrong. Vanessa's mother. I'm calling. About Vanessa. She's not doing well. I'm sorry to hear that, I respond neutrally. A pause. She's staying with us. Lost her apartment. The temp agency let her go. I'm sorry, I repeat, meaning it this time but not enough to change anything. But that's not my problem anymore. You loved each other once, she pleads. We did. And then she chose to love someone else. While lying to my face. While spending our money. While destroying everything we built, I explain calmly. People make mistakes, Ethan, she argues, and people face consequences, Martha. Give her my regards, I reply before hanging up. I hang up, feeling nothing. Not satisfaction, not regret, just nothing. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And I've earned my indifference through 3 months of surveillance. Photos and 3 months of lies. The afternoon shift arrives, and I hand over the dock to the night supervisor. Home by 4 p.m. now instead of midnight. Time for dinner, for reading, for the life I'd postponed while working to support Vanessa's ambitions. The house is quiet when I enter. No false cheerfulness, no secret texting, no tension crackling through. The air. Just quiet. I make dinner, nothing fancy, just pasta and sauce. and eat while watching the news. Simple. Peaceful. Mine. Before bed, I check my email. Claire has sent a photo. Her and her daughters at Emma's soccer game. All three. Smiling. Real smiles. Not the posed ones from Richard's LinkedIn profile. Living well is the best revenge, she's written. But it's not revenge anymore. Revenge was that night in Chicago, watching their faces crumble as their lies collapsed. This quiet life, this honest work, this peace, this is just living. And for the first time in years, I'm good at it. They thought my job made me less of a man. But in the end, it was my job that taught me everything I needed to survive them both. Patience to wait for the truth, precision to document every lie, persistence to see it through to the end. Sometimes the best revenge is simply being exactly who you've always been, while watching your enemies become everything they despised about themselves. Vanessa's working temp jobs, if she's working at all. Richard's selling used cars in Jersey. And me? I'm supervising the morning shift at a warehouse in Newark. Coming home to a house I own. Sleeping soundly in a bed without secrets. I won. Not because they lost, but because I remained myself when they tried to convince me I wasn't enough. So, man I used to be and the man I am now, they're the same person. I just needed to lose everything false to remember what was true. And that's the real revenge. Knowing that while they destroyed themselves trying to be more than they were, I succeeded by being exactly what I'd always been, a good man, an honest worker. Enough. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.